Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Five race weekends down, one still to go, and this is the big decider of it all. This is the final rounds of the 2023-24 BRSCC Mazda MX-5 eSports Winter Series, and this is where we decide who our Season 2 when it is going to be. But rather than the UK circuits, we decided to hop stateside as we did for the first edition and travel to the awesome circuit that is the Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in Monterey, California, USA. Scott Woodward's here on commentary to guide you through all the action. And essentially tonight it is really between two men, really. It's between William Chadwick and Matt Kendall. Points not here, sadly, for tonight. I'm unable to make it. So it is going to be simply a straight fight between William Chadwick and Matt Kendall. And there is a gap of 23 points, essentially, between Chadwick and Kendall at the front of the points table. 1,161 for Chadwick, 1,138 for Matt Kendall. And he will be looking to see if he can wrap it up there. There's the man that currently leads the standings. He's hoping to get it wrapped up tonight and become our Season 2 winner. So the circuit itself then, Laguna Seca, which is nestled in Monterey in California. Of course, California, quite a good wine region in many cases, but this is certainly a fine vintage of a circuit. First round racing back in 1957, and so it was a 1.9 mile circuit. Instead of the tight Andretti hairpin that they run through at turn 2, they essentially went straight on through a bit of a cut through that takes them right round to what we now know as turn 5 and straight through. And since then, really, most of the circuit has gone just about unchanged. There's been a few pit complex changes and, of course, a few different tweaks to the turns here and there. But one corner on the circuit which has always stayed constant and always stayed just as fearsome is the corner that the drivers are just coming up to now on screen here, and that is the all-fearsome corkscrew. It is one of the most awesome corners in world motorsport, and they'll be tackling it here for 3 15-minute races to figure out who wins the Season 2 Winter Esports title. Get an onboard shot here of William Chadwick as the throw just literally falls away from me down through the corkscrew, and then it turns its way through a rainy corner, which is downhill left-hander as you swing back down onto the short straight out of turn 9 back towards turn 10, then the sharp shoot through turn 11, very tight left-hander, and then back onto the pit straight to complete another lap. It's been the scene of many season finales in the past in IndyCar, and also it's been the site of many American Le Mans Series races, and of course so much that's gone on here in the past. And what's quite relevant with the cars we're running here is that at one point Laguna Seca used to be called Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, so it's quite fitting that we choose Laguna Seca as the final round of the series. So qualifying here is just about coming to a close. It's William Chadwick who's on currently pole position, but only by 1/10 of a second by this man James Dennison, one of the two Bromley racing cars in the field tonight. And it's Matt Kendall third fastest at the moment, so he will start directly, geographically, behind William Chadwick on the grid. Mikey Doble, who is the outgoing Season 1 winner, technically can still make it happen. He can still technically become Season 2 winner, but he would need the fortunes to really go his way in order to make that happen. He's also got backup in the form of Joe Doble, who will be looking to try and make an impact there if he can, from 11th on the grid. And a few quite rapid youngsters also trying to make some impressions, particularly also Ewan Charman, who is back in 12th at the moment. Pete Smith, who had a couple of decent runs at points throughout Alton Park last time out, but he's currently back in 14th. And Tom Griffiths, who is back just on the inside of the top 10 in 9th fastest. So the last couple of minutes ticking down before we get racing underway for this evening's finale. And it's been quite an enjoyable calendar all the way through. We started, of course, back at Silverstone, then we went through to Brands Hatch, of course, to Donington Park, to Knock Hill, and then to Alton Park, and now we find ourselves here stateside once again to decide who wins Season 2. It's been great to have Mikey Doble, of course. He's gearing up for another season behind the wheel of the Power Maxed Vauxhall Astra in the British Touring Car Championship. It's good to see that he's still keeping his hand in through the sim racing route. I think that's been quite a viable route for some drivers who are able to do so. Keeps them sharp, keeps them focused, keeps them race ready. As you see Chris Etheridge here in his distinctive pink #blessed machine, with that said hashtag emblazoned on the rear quarters. Currently 5th fastest for Chris. Good run for him so far. As they turn out of the Andretti hairpin, almost double apex left-hander. He needs to get the wind through back into turn 3, underneath the huge Firestone Bridge, and into turn 4 again. And it's a corner that starts to open out on the exit, and this kind of curving right hand. It's not really a corner here, turn 5, on this run towards turn 5. Under the Mother's Bridge, pick a braking point, and then again, this is where on the old circuit they would join in through a very fast section that connected where the entrance of turn 2 is all the way through to turn 5. So on the old circuit, you would skip the entire section of going through Andretti hairpin, through 3, through 4 on the braking zone to 5. And that would essentially be quite a fast kink that would take you back towards 6. You'd approach it at a much faster speed back in the day. And then once that was through 6, up the Rahal Straight, and then into turns 7, and then turns 8 and 8A, which is the corkscrew. So qualifying is complete. 3 more races left to go to decide who is Season 2 Winter eSports winner. And I'm certain that the Laguna Seca Raceway is going to produce quite a lot of strong action here, particularly as the rest of the circuits have done. So here is how the lineup goes then. William Chadwick starts on pole for the first of tonight's 3 races. It is James Dennison in 2nd, followed by Matt Kendall in 3rd and Mikey Doble in 4th. And then Chris Etheridge and Will Blackwood Chambers from Richard Jepp and Richard Harwood. Then Tom Griffiths and Luke Herbert, Joe Doble and Ewan Charman on the 6th row of the grid. Then it's row 7, where we move down towards Ari Barker and Pete Smith, and Tom Monhemius and Tom Selden and Mike Close rounds out the grid for our first of 3 races here tonight. So the cars will start to get up one by one. William Chadwick, just for ID check, both of the title contending cars are white, but it's William Chadwick's car with the green flashes you're looking on screen here is the points leader. Matt Kendall's car in all white, car number 67, literally sat right behind him on the 2nd row of the grid. And James Dennison, one of his best qualifying results, what can he potentially do to get himself a strong result, possibly on the podium, if things work out his way? Also watch out for the 2 Team Northbrook Racing cars of Richard Jepp and Harry Barker. Lights are on then for race number 1 of 3 tonight for the BRSCC Winter eSports Series 23-24 finale at Laguna Seca. We are underway in racing. It's a decent, clean start from Chadwick. He gets away neatly. First 4 or 5 cars are slotting into line of sterns. They head down towards the Andretti hairpin for the first time. And Chadwick will lead them in, one at a time, in towards the hairpin, up them to brakes, into the double apex left-hander of turn 2. They're already going 2 and 3 abreast wide in the middle of the top 10. That's Will Blackwood Chambers getting up the inside of Chris Etheridge, who holds the position. And this could be, I think, Richard Jepp trying to make his way to possibly go 3 wide. Doesn't quite work out. And he has to sit back into 6th position. They're jostling for position already at these early stages, but they turn in through there's 4 and 5, and a big oversteer twitch moment there for somebody. That was car 11. That was Joe Doble. Off in the background also, it looks like, is Richard Harwood. So Harwood also in trouble towards the back, and Joe Doble recovering after a big oversteer moment through what was turn 4. And there's a huge a spin around there for that's Richard Jett. Round he goes on the exit of turn 5. A couple of the cars also running wide. It's a little bit end of term for these guys, at least in the eSports sense. They've got their full real-world season to get involved in, starting at Silverstone on March 16th, 17th, where some of these guys will definitely be in action, including the Mazda MX-5s. So watch out for some of these guys using this as a last little bit of pre-season prep before they get underway for real on track. We're going on board now with car 45, which is Ewan Charman. 8th position. He's looking at the back of Chris Etheridge, who's dropped a couple of places from where he started on the grid. He was in there in 5th position, back in 7th. And another car going backwards. That's Joe Doble again for the second time. So Joe Doble not having the brightest of opening laps. He's had 2 spins, both essentially of his own accord, at least as far as I can see. So he's got some real work to do. Meanwhile, Chadwick then extends his lead already to 1.7 seconds at the end of lap number 1. And ultimately, he is the man in the pound seats to try and make it happen as they come down the hill towards the braking zone for Andretti Hairpin at proper full racing speeds. And further back, this is where the jostling's happening. You've got Chris Etheridge battling with Luke Herbert in front of him. Also with the mix there, you've got 45, which is Ewan Charman. All Blackwood Chambers, around goes Ewan Charman. So he loses the back end on his MX-5. Just about gets missed by Harry Barker as he rejoins. And this now puts Etheridge side by side with Herbert, and here comes Blackwell Chambers. He was tempted to make it 3 wide, but he looks though he just sat back for a moment and decided that discretion was the better part of valour. Herbert runs wide, putting 2 wheels onto the dirt, and this will give Blackwell Chambers the run that he potentially needs to try and squeeze up the middle, and he thought about that as well. This now brings Monhemius into play here, just behind him in grey and red. Also in there too is Harry Barker and Pete Smith. So this mid-pack group here starting to form up a little bit here as Blackwell Chambers just shows the nose up the inside of turn 7 as they climb back up the hill. And now towards the end of the lap once again. Under brakes, Blackwell Chambers has got the inside line. He's under threat from Monhemius. Will try and take it 2 by 2 through the corkscrew. But thankfully backed out of it because he realised that was never going to work in a month of Sundays. Or however that phrase goes. Either way, it's still Herbert from Etheridge, Blackwell Chambers, Monhemius, Barker and Smith. That is the 6 cars that are scrapping over 6th back to 11th. They're just a little bit further back. You've got Richard Jett, who was recovering after his spin on the first lap, and he's also battling with Mike Close. And we'll just have a quick replay of what happened back on the first lap, just to give some context to what happened. This is essentially, first of all, with Ewan Charman. So we're going to head down towards turn 1 here, towards the Andretti Hairpin. Our focus is on Ewan Charman. So he goes right down the outside looking at Harwood. 3, nearly 4 abreast. He runs out quite wide on the exit, but he's okay for the time being in corners 1 and 2. There's 3 wide action in front of him. As they go through 3, he just holds onto the rear tail here. And there's the tag there. That was him just making contact, it looked like, with Richard Harwood as Joe Doble to the right-hand side recovers after his spin on the open lap. So, end of the second lap. It's still Chadwick who now leads by 1.6 seconds, quite comfortably at this point from James Dennison. And then Doble in 3rd place, Kendall 4th. So Doble ahead of Kendall at this point as Etheridge goes wide on the exit of 7 as they climb up the hill back towards the corkscrew again for the 3rd time, and they're all jostling all over each other here down towards the most treacherous part of the course. We're on board with Herbert as he looks to Monhemius to his left. Now the 2 Northbrook cars are starting to gang up on Pete Smith, and there in fact actually was Harry Barker, not hanging around at all. He's gone past both Pete Smith and then immediately starts to put the pressure onto Herbert. Looks to the outside, but Herbert cuts that avenue off and he holds station as they come through the right-hander at turn 10 after exiting Rainy Corner. And now the 2 Northbrook cars going into combat, and Herbert into the pits for some reason. Herbert with a problem, so into the pit lane comes Luke Herbert, I'm afraid. Whether that's an issue or whether that's simply just a penalty of some kind, either way, that's a real severe compromise to his race already. As we look back to the scraps going on for 5th position. Etheridge still fighting away with Blackwell Chambers as they turn out of the Andretti hairpin and back towards turn 3 again. Now they come up towards the right-hander once again at turn 3. Big thump of the curve from both of them. This now gives him the chance to just hone in a little more as to come through the wipe of the windscreen. As you can see, with the dust being collected on the screen. Of course, we've got iRacing weather coming in quite shortly. I need to remember if the MX-5 is one of the cars we're going to get with weather immediately, but that's not a concern right now. What is a concern for Etheridge is the fact that he's just lost the position to All Blackwall Chambers with a fairly simple pass up the inside for 6th place. And that was inside turn 5. Come up through turn 6 and up the Rahal Straight. Here are the two Northbrook racing cars as they climb their way up towards the corkscrew again. This is looking back from Richard Jett. There's his teammate Harry Barker, who was announced on social media the other day as being the second entrant for Team Northbrook Racing. So they're going to run 2 cars in the City Car Cup amongst the Student Motorsport Challenge, which is good to see. So the Northbrook effort being expanded to a 2-car team. And they're looking to try and make it 3 in a row in this year's Student Motorsport Challenge if they can. Had showed great pace when they took the title in the first year of the Student Motorsport Challenge as Met Motorsport, rebranded Northbrook. And as we look at these two, we're going to look back and see what happened to Richard Jett on the opening lap. This is going down towards turn 5. Now he's battling away with Etheridge and Tom Griffiths. He turns in through turn 5, a little too hot. And the simple question, did he jump or was he pushed? Sadly, did it all by himself. He did a complete 360, straight on the loud pedal, and back underway he goes. But he's right to the back of the field and giving Joe Doble a free pass to get back up to what would have been 16th position. So race heading towards half distance now. The two Team Northbrook cars are jostling for position. This is over 9th and 10th place. Here's our current race leader and of course points leader on top of that. So Will only just needs to kind of keep it nice and cool and collected. And essentially he can, at least touch wood, be on course to secure that Season 2 title. At the moment, in terms of what he'll score. So he'll score 100 points. Plus he also has the fast lap of the race. So that for him will give him 101 points from this race. Kendall, meanwhile, so far sits in 4th, so that's 94 points for him. This would extend Chadwick's lead now to 30 points, effectively. Mikey Doble is currently would score 96 for where he is in 3rd, which means that he closes in. He would in fact leapfrog into 3rd place, given that Ted Bradbury sadly not here tonight. Also, 98 points currently for James Dennison. That puts him on 1,148 if it stays as it is. So that will also see him leapfrog into 4th. So there's some jumping going on in the top 5 in points here with these positions. And Doble, in fact, is closing in on Dennison. In fact, and a mistake there or a slowdown for Chadwick has brought Dennison into play now. You can see that he's right up onto the tail of Chadwick, coming down towards Andretti hairpins. The lead that Chadwick had has been, quite frankly, severely evaporated. It was about 2.5 seconds, but it's now closed down to about 0.3. Yeah, the other thing I can think of is unless Chadwick's backed off a tiny bit and figured, well, I might as well have a bit of a play whilst I'm out in front here, but of course that brings its own risks. So up through turns 3 and 4 underneath the Firestone Bridge. Dennison having a really strong run towards the end of the season here in the eSports series. Now they come back towards turn 5 under the Mother's Bridge, and again you can see Dennison just going a little deeper, a little tighter into the corner to try and put himself into Chadwick's mirrors, because he knows he can try and force a mistake if possible. This could really play into his favour here if he can make it happen. Through turn 6, little dab of the brakes. You can see the speedo on the bottom right there to start to climb the hill. He's in the slipstream, about 95, maybe 100 miles an hour before they hit the top of the crest. And then just on the outside line, he's forcing Chadwick to go defensive. He's off the racing line here. Manages to gather it back up neatly through the corkscrew, under the WeatherTech Bridge and in towards Rainy Corner. And this now battling is also bringing in Mikey Doble. He's not letting this eSports title go without a fight. And playing his cards right, he might even still end up on the podium in the top 3 at this rate. He's had some up and down races at points, but when he's been on it, Doble has been one of the fastest men out there. And whilst he may well have not quite yet won a race this season, he hasn't. No, in fact, the best result he's had was back at Brands Hatch and also at Knock Hill. We scored a couple of second places. So he has been on the podium a few times and scored a couple of second places. But a victory this year has since eluded him, and that's because the quality of the racing so far, the quality of driver, has been really substantially improved. Of course, William Chadwick and Ted Bradbury have been part of that. As we see back here, Richard Jett, who's on a decent comeback trail. He's up the inside of Tom Monhemius to pick up what will be 8th position. So Tom, one of our younger drivers in the field, has dropped backwards to near the bottom of the top 10, and he now currently splits the two Northbrook racing cars. So we've got Richard Jett in 8th position, and Harry Barker, his teammate, just there in 10th, and they both sandwich the Tom Monhemius car in 9th position, car number 98 for Dragon Racing. A little wide there for Jebb as he's pushing. Got to be careful he doesn't keep on going too wide, otherwise he can start racking up incident points, and you rack up too many of those, you could find yourself getting a penalty or even disqualified from the race. And again, that's a little bit risky there from Jeff. He's using all the track and more that can be afforded. We're into the second half of the race now. obviously the two-thirds gone, so into the final third of the race rather. And Barker, in fact, is the one that's going to lose a position here because Pete Smith gets a decent run through 6 over the crest into 7 underneath the Bubba Burger sign. Now under and over the corkscrew as they continue to cascade and tumble their way down the hill. Now back to the leaders. Chadwick hasn't got away from Dennison, and Doble is right on the rear bumper, practically touching the rear bumper of Dennison out of the final corner. This is the view. They're looking back at car number 1. Mikey Doble in that typical Powermax Racing livery, effectively the same livery which he'll run, or same colours to that effect, that he'll run this year in the British Touring Car Championship. But of course it'll be a front-wheel drive Vauxhall Astra rather than a rear-wheel drive Mazda MX-5. Remember, of course, Mikey Doble, before he came to BTCC, was racing in both the Ginetta GT5 Challenge and the BMW Compact Cup. Both, of course, are small, lightweight little rear-wheel drive race cars, and so he's definitely used to these kind of machines. So the fact that he's taken to these MX-5s, not just last year, but this season, of course, pretty swiftly, is no surprise whatsoever. 3 minutes to go on the clock, plus change depending on the lap that's left. So I think we're going to get, based on lap times, lap time-wise, they've been setting times in around the range of 1 minute 35, 1:36 is for the leaders. So I reckon, in fact, you can see their fastest lap of the race is William Chadwick, the only man that's gone sub 1:36 in this race so far. And now he's sort of bobbled a little bit in the middle part of the race. He started to pull it back a little more. Maybe he's just squeezing the throttle a little bit more to try and create a bit of a gap if he can. But both Dennison and Doble now trying to give chase, but they could be more engrossed with battling each other than they could be trying to keep Chadwick in close range to try and attack. But especially through that sequence there, through the corkscrew, through Rainy Corner and through turn 10, Chadwick just trying to put another car length between himself and the battle for second place. Out of the left-hander, I think we're going to get probably enough time for 2 more laps here, because there's now, the clock says 13 minutes gone, 2 to go. So I think we will get 2 more laps this time around. So this is the penultimate lap of the race, time-wise, as they head down the hill. Rest of the field, we should point out, Matt Kendall is not quite on the same pace that he has been in previous rounds, as we see Richard Harwood and Joe Doble, 2 of the early spinners at the beginning of the race, now battling amongst each other, and this is for 12th position. Harwood comes back at him on the inside here, and Joe will try and fight it as much as he can. They're practically dead level across the line, and in terms of the gap between them, Harwood then holds on to the position where he can. Doble takes a very wide approach, almost practically entirely off the road. But he sits in behind and will try and reevaluate an option to make an attack here as they come up towards the right-hander at turn 3. And now into 4 again, under the Firestone Bridge. And now back on the power again. Let's see if Harwood's got anything here to try and pull away, or if Doble can try and retaliate. If he gets a good run through 5 and up the hill through 6 and 7 towards the corkscrew, there's every chance he could definitely keep himself in contention. Just up the road, I could see at the top of the shot, there was Pete Smith and Harry Barker who had nose to tail, and they were battling over that. Now then, Chadwick's under a bit much more pressure than he's been before, because he's got both Dennison and Doble here, all over him, and in fact looking around the outside and possibly for the inside line for the lead. Comes Dennison, and Chadwick breaks early, and that's both of them through. So possibly either he realises that no matter where he finishes, he can still make this stick, either that or he's just enjoying himself and having fun. Tell you what, heck of a time to have fun when he's on course at the moment, at least. That's the key phrase, at the moment, to become Season 2 champion. But he's now boxed in. He's got Doble to his right, Dennison right in front of him. They're 3 wide, almost down towards the Andretti hairpin. Dennison takes the deep approach to try and hold the inside line, and Chadwick just nibbling away at the Bromley Racing Car's bumper. But now he finds himself under severe pressure from Mikey Doble, the number 1 car, all over Chadwick as they come through turn 3 under the Firestone Bridge. This is the last lap battle here. I wonder if all 3 have just been keeping their powder dry a little bit here to try and give themselves a last-minute gasp battle to the line here. Under the bridge. And Chadwick, look at that. Car's moving around, and Doble with a huge send up the inside. He just tried to pull off the dummy. Couldn't quite make it stick, and Chadwick kind of darted to the outside line to try and put Dennison off, but that simply opened the door for Doble to take a huge look up the inside and couldn't quite make it stick. And he's now dropped back by about a car length, which now puts him at risk from falling out of contention for the victory. Over the crest here towards the corkscrew, and Chadwick dares to go round the outside. Can he get the switch back here? They touch, they tag a little bit through the corkscrew. They're still nose to tail, all the way down the hill. Looking up the inside at Rainy Corner. That's a big pass if he can make it stick. Through Rainy Corner, he's on the outside line for turn 10. This is going to be the sprint to the flag here. Round the outside, looks. Chadwick can't get it done, but he's got the inside line here at the final corner. Is it going to be a last corner pass? 3 abreast into the final corner. That shouldn't work. Chadwick gets the pincer movement. On the inside goes Doble. He might win the drag race up towards the line. Doble slots back in. Chadwick holds on just about. After leading most of the way, a severe last lap battle heads to the checkered flag, and Chadwick only just wins by 0.172 of a second. How about that? 3 wide into the final corner at Laguna Seca. That shouldn't work, and technically it didn't, but Chadwick managed to just about hold on. And Doble managed to really steal second place from Dennison when he wasn't even expecting it. And Dennison, I think, had the inside line opened up anyway, given the fact that Chadwick was there to his left. And as Doble tried to make the move, he almost caught Chadwick in a pincer movement, and Dennison was the one caught on the outside, trying to stay out of it and avoid any contact. So an extreme finish in the end there for the top 3 at least. That was a very entertaining first battle in the end anyway. So we'll look at the results then to finish things off. So it's... let's look at the results then from race number 1 after what was a quite extreme finish to the end after that one. And so it's William Chadwick who takes the victory then. Mikey Doble in second place and James Dennison in third. From Matt Kendall 4th, Tom Griffiths 5th, and Will Blackwood Chambers rounds out the top 6. But it's Chris Etheridge, Richard Jepp, Tom Monhemius and Ari Barker rounding out the top 10. And that's followed by Pete Smith, Richard Harwood, Joseph Doble and Tom Selden. And then we had some issues for Luke Herbert. He pitted early in the race, followed by Mike Close and Ewan Charman. So what that does... So there's the update here in terms of as the points going through. As I say, Chadwick picks up 101 points as he got the fast lap of the race. 98 for Mikey Doble and 96 for James Dennison, 94 for Matt Kendall. So that now puts them at least provisionally at least on points. We stress that because of course there's some final calculations to be made. It puts Chadwick on 1,262, Kendall on 1,232 and Mikey Doble on 1,202. But we'll see if they can improve on that anymore. So is it going to be a tougher task for Chadwick this time, or can he possibly pull away and make it an easier race 2 task this time around? The lights are out. Race number 2 is underway as the green flag flies at Laguna Seca, and this time Doble wastes no time in slotting in himself behind Chadwick, who takes a slightly wider approach off the line. This might give the door open for Doble here down towards the Andretti hairpin. Down towards it and looking up the inside, and Chadwick takes the very wide line in towards the first apex of turn 2. Side by side for third between Dennison and Kendall on the exit. Now towards turn 3 is a spinner in the background, possibly, I think that's Tom Selden, I think. Yes, it is, and someone else going for a spin. 2 more cars going for a spin. One of them is one of the Northbrook racing cars. Timing screen tells me that's Ari Barker, and Luke Herbert's also hit problems too, so they're towards the back of the field. Out of turn 4, Monhemius running wide in the background on the dirt, but the leading back down towards turn 5 here, and it's Chadwick who currently again leads the way. Doble in second place, Dennison third, Kendall 4th. He's not quite got the same pace as the top 3 it seems. He really needs to see if he can stay with the top 3 here in these early stages, but not quite showing the same sort of pace that he was on the UK circuits. Laguna Seca, of course, is slightly more unfamiliar to some drivers, but of course those who are more regulars in iRacing and racing on these kind of circuits and these kind of sims will have a bit of knowledge of Laguna Seca, as it's a fantastic cascading shot to watch the cars just tumble down through this blind, huge drop through the corkscrew, and all the way now down towards the Rainy Corner. And Chadwick running very wide. They're all running wide, the first 3 or 4 cars. That's going to be, I think, severe penalty points for them, or driving penalty X's. They'll get. So that would be some warnings for them. End of the first lap, and it's Chadwick who still leads. Doble in second place. Dennison under big pressure from Kendall this time. So Kendall much more on his toes now for race number 2. Which is letting Dennison be a little later into the braking zone so that he can get a nice, tidier, tighter run through the Andretti hairpin. Rest of the top 10 sees Griffiths in 5th, Blackwood Chambers in 6th, Jepp in 7th place. He's had a better first lap than race number 1, but he had that spin exiting turn 5. Then it's Etheridge, Monhemius and Doble the top 10. So Joseph Doble also surviving lap 1 without any dramas. And it's Ewan Charman, Pete Smith, then Close, Selden, Barker, Harwood and Herbert. That's the 17 cars that are in the mix here in race number 2. So the leaders head their way out of turns 5 and 6. Chadwick was a little wide there, but we'll come back to that in a second. See if we can try and figure out what happened to Tom Monhemius. We're looking at his view. The leaders come through. Chadwick took that wide line in, and see there Tom Monhemius, a bit of a concertina effect, because it was Monhemius who tagged the side of Chris Etheridge's car, and that looks like Pete Smith and Ari Barker getting together. So that was Smith rejoining Ari Barker in the mix. It looks as though I think that Tom Selden possibly had a pit lane start, and Luke Herbert had a spin all on his own by it seems he was right at the back of the field with not much going on. So leaders out of turns 9 and 10 for the second time. Doble this time is choosing to put the pressure on pretty early here. He's deciding to let William Chadwick know that he's in the fight for this. And James Dennison will try and see if he can hold up Matt Kendall if he's got any pace to do so. Still, Tom Griffiths trying to keep the leaders in check in 5th position. It's 6th for Jet. Remember, the top 10 gets reversed for race number 3. So if you finish in 10th, you'll start on pole for the final race of the season. Out of the Andretti hairpin. And these guys really have been this kind of leading group. It's been getting bigger and bigger, but these kind of 5 cars, at least for the ones that we have here, they've been that consistent leading pack that's been getting closer and closer as the season's gone on. And it certainly has worked out pretty well. So out of turn 4, wide there for Jeff. He's going to give Blackwood Chambers the chance to get a slingshot, possibly down towards 5. He's in the tow. Not thinking about a dive just yet. Going on board with Wilt, former Mazda MX-5 Super Cup champion himself in 2022 in the Pro Class. And he's now on the tail of the 2-time defending Student Motorsport Challenge champion within the City Car Cup, Richard Jepp. So there's, of course, a good diversity of drivers from different BRSCC Formula and series in here. Under the crest and under brakes again, down towards the corkscrew. Again, you see the working away at the wheel there for Blackwell Chambers, trying to find the run. Again, a little bit more dust on the screen, just a little flick of the windscreen wipers just to clear his visibility. And now towards turn 10. He's got Etheridge just behind him in 8th position in the hashtag Blessed car, and that's going to be, I think, an easy pass for Blackwell Chambers, on paper at least, because Richard Jett slots back in behind the former MX-5 Super Cup champion, and now he's under a big threat here from Etheridge, who gets the run. Let's just look at the replay of what happened. We're going on board with Jett here, just going through. Now, he does catch the curb on the inside, but that's not the corner he's worried about. It's turn 10 here, just turns in. There's a small twitch, and it's the clip of the curb on the inside, which kind of denotes the apex. That's what threw him offline and spit him out the other side on the dust and dirt on the exit of the corner, and that's what's pushed him backwards now, under pressure from both Etheridge and Tom Monhemius. They're scrapping over 7th place. There's the top 5 up the road who are relatively close together. Chadwick has got a lead of about 7/10 of a second over Doble, and then the next 8/10 of a second covers the next 4 cars in the field, particularly that scrap for 2nd place that just went out of shot. But we're looking currently, that was Etheridge with a late dive up the inside at turn 5. He's kind of elbowed Richard Jepp out of the way, and look at the advantage that both Monhemius and Joe Doble have got. We're looking back at Pete Smith for a second, but it's all 3 wide on the approach towards turn 6. Something's got to give, and Monhemius passed all of them to make him move up into 7th position, and there goes Etheridge, who gets spat out the other side, just clips the tyre wall, and away he goes again. He's back down to 10th, make it 11th, make that 12th, 13th, and away he goes again. He's behind Ari Barker and Tom Selden, but he was just the unlucky soul caught out in that. And he gets going again. We'll look at a replay of exactly what played out there. So they tried to go 3, nearly 4 abreast in towards turn 6. It's never really going to work. And Etheridge just caught out. And that was him. I thought for a second it was all done of his own accord, but Joe Doble just arrived on the exit of the corner a little too quickly for Etheridge's liking and just tagged the back of the hashtag Blessed car. And he sort of tried to catch it. It snapped one way, then the other, and eventually the car went sideways and just backed itself into the tyre wall. Not too much for too much damage, I don't think. But here's Dennison trying to go for 2nd, and he's gone for it with a huge dive. Now remember, Dennison held 2nd place for quite a while in race 1, and now he's trying to get his revenge on Mikey Doble if he can. All this battling, again, he's just giving Chadwick a chance to pull away. The harder these guys fight each other, the easier it is for Chadwick to continue to make a break out in front. The gap is now nearly 1.1 seconds as they now make their way towards turn 5. Dennison is just under threat again from Doble, who must have been millimetres away from just nibbling the rear bumper of Denison's machine through turn 6. That just really sharp, tight compression right on the apex as the car sits down on its springs, and then you start to get the climb back up the hill, goes light over the crest here, and then you just have your heart in your mouth here as you just fall away on this huge blind crest as you come down the hill underneath the WeatherTech bridge. And Doble just trying to keep the pressure on here in 3rd position. Looking at the back of James Denison now. Matt Kendall looking racy in 4th position in the white car just behind him, car 67. And he's sort of posturing around the rear end of Mikey Doble's car, just thinking about a potential look for a podium. Now, in terms of point score, well, Matt Kendall has the fastest lap of the race, and he'll get the bonus point. At this point in time, it's 100 points to Chadwick. It's 98 to Denison. It's currently 96 to Doble, but for how much longer depends on whether Matt Kendall can send it round the outside. He'll get 95 points currently for finishing in 4th. And then Tom Griffiths is just behind him in 5th position. He'll get 92 points, which means this will put Chadwick onto 1,362 compared to Matt Kendall on 1,327 and Mikey Doble on 1,298, which means it gives a slightly more comfortable cushion for Chadwick to be in front by about, looks like, I think that's 55 points or so, 60, 65 points. They come out of turn 5 and 6, and you can see Denison just causing Doble and Kendall to stack up a little bit. It might just give a chance for Griffiths to get involved. Here's the feedback from Denison, you saw there, just right on that, the huge dip on the corner apex of turn 6, the way the car just sat down on its front springs, almost scraping the ground a little bit. And then here you can see it goes very light over the crest. You can see where the suspension goes up, and then you get huge positive, then negative G, lots of different loads going through the car through that point of the circuit. Continue to tumble down the hill back towards turn 10. And Doble is certainly trying to push as hard as he dares here. He's trying to force Denison into a mistake. He dips a wheel onto the outside dirt, but I think that's okay. And all this is allowing Chadwick to pull away here. 1.8 seconds to the good, and Denison runs wide over the curb, and this could be the momentum that Mikey Doble needs. He gets the run up the hill, over the pit straight, and over the crest towards Andretti hairpin. Kendall tries to go with him and get the push. Denison tried to go across and take his line, but he might not be able to do it because here comes Kendall up the inside to go for 1 place, nay, possibly 2. They go to the apex at the first part. Kendall's there and takes the place. Denison loses 2 spots, and there is Denison trying to retaliate, but he's now under pressure again in quick succession from Tom Griffiths, who's just behind him in blue and yellow in 5th position. So a short straight towards turn 4. Tip of the curb. Back on the power again. And again, all this battling just helping Chadwick get away here. We're past 2/3 distance, so Denison has a look. That's a huge dive up the inside. He just taps wings with Matt Kendall, which puts him wide on the exit of 5, gives Griffiths the chance to try and get through. Well, Blackwell Chambers isn't too far away either. Doble's got away in 2nd place by a few car lengths. Denison trying to go with him. But up the hill, Chadwick still has an advantage now of 2.1 seconds. He's trying to scamper up the road if he can. Here comes Griffiths for 4th. But Kendall sweeps across, takes the racing line to hit the brakes for the corkscrew, and holds on to the place just for the moment. And this really is playing fully into this man's hands. Look at that. In fact, he's actually pulled another, 8/10 of a second in those few corners. That's how much the battling behind him is costing those 4 cars scrapping from 2nd down to 5th. It really is just him enjoying the clear track around him, taking one step closer to becoming the Season 2 Winter eSports Series champion. Here comes Denison with the run. He's trying to get a bit of revenge on what happened at the end of race 1, exiting the final corner. He's got the inside line on Doble. We're going to go side by side. And Denison thinks he's got it, but might have gone a bit too deep. And no, he parks it neatly on the apex. It's a cheeky little tactic there from Denison. He was severely on the inside line, but he managed to get it just anchored up enough to hold his line on the inside, essentially force Doble to hesitate getting on the throttle because there's absolutely no room. There's a car sat in front of you. You can't get on the power, and that means it's just backed him into both Matt Kendall and possibly Tom Griffiths, who's dropped back by a few car lengths himself. He's now about a second back from Kendall. And Will Blackwell Chambers there at the top of the shot in white, red and blue is not too far away either, so keep an eye on him to get involved in this scrap for the top 5. Chadwick's advantage now, though, is 3.2 seconds out in front. And they come up the hill once again, we are heading towards, I think, possibly just about enough time for 2 more laps, I think. But we'll see what the time is like as Dennison, Doble and Kendall are just all in one line all the way through the corkscrew, back through Rainy Curve. There's a chance for Doble to squeeze through. This could be a repeat of what happened at the end of race 1. Only this time it's Kendall involved in this scrap and not Chadwick. This is for 2nd, 3rd and 4th rather than for the podium places. Joe Doble appears to be out of the race, sadly. Also, we've seen his Mike Close and Ewan Charman also out of it too, unfortunately. So those 3 guys are out of the race in the closing stages. Scrap for 2nd is on. So we've just gone past the pits with about 2 minutes to go on the clock. So yes, we've got time for 2 more laps at this rate. Dennison again goes defensive. We'll park the car on the apex and watch for Kendall on the outside. He's got a really good sweep around the outside. He's got the grip, he's got the confidence, he's got the line. This will give him the inside for turn 3, and Doble might not have anything to do about it. He's now boxed in. He's got Dennison in front of him. Kendall now was to his right. Now he's in front of him and gets 3rd place. Doble will try and retaliate here, but again, if they start to fight, it gives Griffiths the chance to get involved. It also gives Blackwell Chambers the chance to get involved late on in the next lap and a half. And again, if Kendall and Doble aren't careful, it will allow Dennison to get away and cement 2nd place. So Kendall, they both need to realise they have to stop fighting with each other and try and call a temporary truce and stop Dennison from getting up the road as much as possible. Touch wood, I don't think he's going to catch Chadwick in front. Is Dennison. He's about 3.8 seconds back at this point. He's just going over the top of the crest before the corkscrew is our race leader. There he goes at the bottom of the shot, going through the corkscrew. And still Kendall. And then Doble, Griffiths, Blackwell, Chambers. Richard Jepp is back in 7th place. He's got his teammate Harry Barker about 2 seconds behind him in 8th. Pete Smith is 9th. And Tom Selden rounds out the top 10. Meanwhile for Chadwick, he currently holds the advantage here. Look at the timing screen. He still doesn't have the fastest lap of the race. He might get it here if he's got some good pace, although he's possibly just using as much pace as he needs to rather than he has to. Across the line he goes, and he does again. He's on roughly fastest lap pace because the fastest lap of the race is set by this man, Matt Kendall, at 1:35.794, and Chadwick is about 1/10 of a second back. So in terms of lap time, so we'll see how this plays out on the final lap of the race. And Dennison now has to try and hold back the tide of these constant pressure from both Kendall and Doble in 3rd and 4th places. So out of 3, up towards 4. And you can see there both Griffiths and Blackwell Chambers, they're just keeping a watching brief. They're staying in the mix in case they need to. Now we come back towards the end of the final couple on the final lap pin. It's side by side between Kendall and Doble, it seems. They come up the crest and towards the left-hander at turn 6. So if they can hold on to this one. Back down under brakes. We can hold on to the place if he can. Through the last few corners here. Under through the corkscrew. Doble's held on to 3rd place. Kendall's still 4th. And again, Griffiths and Blackwell Chambers are just about keeping in touch, but they come up towards the final couple of turns to set the checkered flag. And despite the battling for these 5 drivers, it's going to be the man out in front who will take his 2nd win of the night, and he's practically putting one hand on the eSports title this evening with 1 race still to go. Up to the checkered flag, William Chadwick will once again take victory in race number 2, and the weave of celebration is evident. It's 2 from 2 so far on the finale evening here at Laguna Seca. It's then 2nd for Dennison, 3rd for Doble, and 4th for Matt Kendall. And does he keep the fastest lap? He does. So that's now point scores. 100 for Chadwick, 98 for Dennison, 96 for Doble, and 95 for Matt Kendall. So interesting enough for those guys. Griffiths got 92 points, and Will Blackwell Chambers has got 90 in that result. Of course, the full points will be updated after the event. We've got at least the main players in the standings in terms of who's where. And so by our calculations, provisionally, that now means it puts... that's actually now a gap of... actually 35 points, in fact. 35 points now between Chadwick and Kendall, as far as we can see. So as we come towards the final race of what's been a very entertaining BRSCC Winter Esports series. Of course, we come to the end of the esports activity, and we're getting close now to the start of the real-world activity, which is getting underway in now less than a month's time. It all gets underway at Silverstone on the international circuit. March 16th and 17th is where we'll find races for the MX5 Championship, Clubman Championship and the Super Cup, as well as the Super Sport Endurance Cup, Club Sport Trophy, the Super Classic Formula Fords. On top of that, the Zio prototypes are in action too, as are also the Fiesta Junior Championship, who are out for their race, which is the first rounds of at Silverstone. And speaking of the Fiesta Juniors, we should give a shout out to the winner last week, or actually this time last week, in fact, actually on Thursday, of the first Fiesta Junior Scholarship. So congratulations has to go to Daniela Sutton, who impressed the judges and got through to the final 6, along with 5 other very talented drivers. And she, as a result of that, has won a full season of Fiesta Junior racing, which is worth in excess of £65,000, the prize package. So she'll get full use of a Mark 7 Fiesta Junior race car, courtesy of Pro Alloys Racing. We've got the first round of course on March 16th to 17th, and there's more action coming up with races at Snetterton in April, and next after that we've then got the opening rounds of TCR UK, which are happening on April 13th and 14th, amongst other rounds on top of that. So lots of action going on. If you want to find out all the different championships and series that are racing this year, and also the calendar itself, you can head to the website, which is brscc.co.uk, and find out more information. It's set to be another entertaining season all round for those competing in the various championships and series. So just in warm-up now. Of course, remember the top 10 for race 2 reverses the grid for race number 3. We'll just go have a quick look back and remind myself of who that should be in terms of top 10. So it looks like it's going to be Tom Monhemius who will start on pole position, with Tom Selden alongside him. So good recovery from Tom to pick his way up into what will be a front row starting spot. It should then be Pete Smith and Ari Barker on the second row, followed by Will Blackwell Chambers and Tom Griffiths on the third row. And then Matt Kendall and Mikey Doble on row 4, and then James Dennison and William Chadwick on the 5th row. The grid starting back in 10th. Courtesy of his race 2 victory. There are the results. So Chadwick, Dennison, Doble, Kendall and Griffiths, Blackwell Chambers, Ari Barker, Pete Smith, Tom Selden and Tom Monhemius. You reverse that top 10, and that gives you the starting order, plus everyone down from 11th to 17th in that order for race number 3. So the short little 5-minute warm-up is just about complete, which means a couple of minutes still to go, in fact, so we've still got a bit of time. Whilst we do have a bit of time, let's just give some thanks to those that have made this eSports series happen. First of all, thank you to all the drivers and team that signed up throughout the 2023-24 season for taking part and supporting the series, so for supporting BRSCC, for supporting its efforts into eSports, and of course for being quite an active little community of drivers that certainly have enjoyed themselves. And it's now 2 years in a row we've done the eSports series, and they've always seemed to have enjoyed themselves and be a part of it. And it's a good chance for them to race against drivers that they wouldn't normally interact with or even race with on track from different series within the BRSCC Formula roster. So that in itself is quite an impressive feat nonetheless. Thanks also to everyone who supported and done their bit, particularly Will Blackwell Chambers and Matt Kendall, as Tom Griffiths goes for a bit of a spin, exiting turn 3. Thankfully that's only the warm-up rather than anything in the race. But thanks to Will Blackwell Chambers and for Matt Kendall for their efforts in adminning and looking after the eSports series throughout the season, and for their efforts, so well done to them. Thanks has to go to, of course, to Apex Racing TV, who have been broadcasting everything for us throughout the season, throughout the end of last year and the beginning of this year, to get things done. And thanks also, of course, to Hydro Race for supporting the series, as well as, of course, iRacing for the platform, and one or two long-term BRSCC partners, including Run Your Fleet, of course. So be sure to go and check out runyourfleet.com for them as well. To be excited about for the 2024 BRSCC season. And again, we're just getting right to the end of that off-season now. It's been a long winter ever since racing finished essentially right at the end. Well, for BRSCC, it was right in the middle of November at Race of Remembrance, and then the months seem to have flown by in this off-season. All the way through December, through Christmas and New Year, and now we're back to the already through January and February towards the end of it now. And already come up towards a quarter of the year gone, which is quite something to think about. So the grid then is getting itself set for race number 3, and there it is. This is the final grid of the last race of the 2023-24 Winter Esports season. It's Tom Monhemis who will start on pole position, with Tom Selden alongside him. Then it's Pete Smith and Ari Barker from William Blackwell Chambers and Tom Griffiths. Then Matt Kendall and Mikey Doble, James Dennison and William Chadwick, who essentially just has to finish pretty well and try and maintain that 30-point gap if he can, which is almost just about assured, I think, to essentially pick up the 2023-24 esports title. Then it's Etheridge and Harwood in 11th and 12th place, and then the rest of the grid is going to be Jep, Herbert, Doble, Joe Doble, in fact, Ewan Sharman and Mike Close. So the time of day in the sim now set down to a pretty low point in the sun, and towards as the sun starts to set on the esports series, race number 3 gets underway for the final race of the 23-24 season. And Monhemis gets a strong start from pole, who covers off the advances of both Selden and a fast-starting Pete Smith. Smith is looking to the outside for second place. His quick start also for Ari Barker puts him to 4th, and here comes Blackwell Chambers with a move. He's looking for 4th position. Smith backed out of it, so he's now dropped back down to 6th behind himself and Barker. They're jostling for positions, and Chadwick's in the mix in here as well. So is Kendall, and Chadwick already going up the inside of Kendall to make a move. That was before 8th position, and Doble's around. Mikey Doble's gone sideways. I'm not sure if he was tapped by Dennison at all or not, but he's now to the back of the field and in 17th place with work to do. A couple of cars running wide, including William Chadwick, but they're coming down towards turn 5 at racing speeds for the first time, and Blackwell Chambers on his toes, going up the inside, or having a look at least at Tom Monhemis. Out of 5, up the hill now through the gears, looking one way, then the other, trying to possibly make a move here as they go on the brakes and turn to the left-hander. Now the climb up the hill, over the crest towards the corkscrew for the first time. Harwood there running wide on the exit of 6, but he recovers well into the corkscrew. Still Monhemis in the lead. Blackwell Chambers, and Monhemis loses it right in the compression at the corkscrew. Round he goes in front of everybody, and thankfully they all avoid him. And Will Blackwell Chambers effectively gets just given a free pass into the lead. The Monhemis continues on, but that's the nature of Laguna Seca. It's one of those circuits where you cannot afford to take any liberties with it. And if you do, not only does it bite back, but it bites hard. Let's look at a replay of what happened there then. So back at the corkscrew, Monhemis, I think he just went possibly a bit too hot on the apex of the second part, right at the bottom of the compression. He went over the curb. Yeah, just catches the inside curb, and round it went. And thankfully, that's good avoidance there from Tom to ensure that he kept to the outside and let everyone go through unscathed. He slots in behind what was Mikey Doble. He's gone back through in 13th position. The lap number 2, and you can see there Kendall having a bit of a scrap here now. Is that Kendall? It is Kendall. And that was Will Chadwick going straight round the outside of Harry Barker. Round goes Chadwick. Chadwick gets tapped by Kendall. Both the main title contenders are off at turn 3. Now, I think Chadwick should survive and carry on, but I think for Kendall, is that his season over prematurely? If it is, that's a real shame. Let's look at what happened here. Now, they were jostling for 3rd here between himself and Barker. Has a look up the inside. And that was a bit of a chain reaction, unintentional chain reaction, I think. Barker had a look up the inside. He kind of spooked Tom Selden a little bit. And then, as a result of that, Selden went a little too deeper than he expected. There's the view looking back at it. Selden was a bit too deeper than he'd like to have been, because Ari Barker was looking up his inside, and then Kendall just saw it happening in front and just had nowhere to go. It was happening right in front of him, and the car just almost magnetised him towards it. And Kendall, sadly, looks as though that's going to be a non-finish for him, which is a real shame, given the fact that he was looking in such good form. So unfortunately, it's not the way he wanted to end his esports season, but I think he should still hold himself in a roundabout, I think, in the podium places, but we'll see how the points shake out in the end. So at the moment then, Chadwick is back in 13th position, but it's not going to change the gap between himself or Kendall. But Chadwick's in the pit lane also, so he's going to be down the order. In fact, he might even possibly choose to call it a day there as well. If that's the case, both of them. And of course, there are drop scores here, so they will get points back if they don't score anything. So Kendall out of the race means he scores a 0. He does gain points back. He gains points back to 1,411. Oh, that's interesting. In fact, actually, that might actually is that going to work out in? Now this is interesting because Chadwick can get back out. If he can get back out and still finish and fix whatever damage he's got, as there's more incidents going on, he can still get the points he needs. In fact, he's going back out. That might have been a fast repair, and he's out in 13th. Now 13th will give him 86 points, which means, I'm not sure if he gets any, does he get any points back at all or not? He may or may not, but if he stays where he is now in 13th place, he's right at the back of the field because we've got no Joe Doble, no Mike Close, and no Ewan Charman in the field either. So that puts him on 86 for 13th. That means if it stays where it is, Chadwick will get 1,448 and would still win the eSports title, but he needs to carry on and essentially finish the race unscathed. He's 30 seconds back from the lead, so he's got plenty of time to maybe close the gap in or at least drive on his own and just do it unscathed. This now gives a glory run for both Will Blackwell-Chambers and Tom Griffiths because they're now in the fight to possibly get one of their first wins of the season. So it's now between Griffiths and Blackwell-Chambers. These two will do battle in real life for the MX5 Super Cup this year. So we'll see if they can give us an early preview of what we could expect in 2024. Selden behind in third place, runs wide over the curb. He's having one of his best runs of the season. He's got the two Team Northbrook racing cars getting involved. I don't think he expected the Team Northbrook Inquisition because here comes both Barker for third place and Jet for fourth if he can manage it. Barker's got the inside line, Selden going at it. These two, of course, had a bit of a brief encounter on lap 1, and that was right at turn 3. And now Jet actually slots into what is now fourth place. Barker's up to third, so both of the Northbrook racing cars into third and fourth positions in tandem with two teammates. And what's happened to Selden? Where's he gone? Selden's gone, listening to Selden disappeared. Now his car was, he's a sim racer, so his car was flickering, so I'm not sure if it's possibly an issue with his connection, possibly. There's a crash, it could be an incident. Let's try and find out what happened. So this is now looking back at Selden. This is the setup to it. So Harry Barker was up the inside, and Selden had the outside line, so he tries to defend it here. Then Jep has a look and makes it stick. He's down to 5th position. And looks though I'm afraid it was a technical issue because his car was flickering. It's one of those technical connection issues, I think, I'm afraid. And just turns in, loses the back end and possibly rear. He lost it by himself. That's the reason why he disappeared. Awful. If he backed away too much, he might have gone inside of Chris Etheridge, but thankfully he didn't. And thankfully he got away with that pretty much unscathed. But he's right down the order into what is now 12th. 12th position. Now Matt Kendall's got back out into the race as well. Now he's down in 14th. That'll give him, Kendall gives him 84 points. But it's not going to change the order because that's one of his lowest scores of the season anyway, which means that he will still end up on 1,411 points in the end. Now Chadwick is still in 30th. That will still give him 86, which means that it's not going to change the direction of how that's going to run. Doble, in fact, actually is up to 4th, so he's running on 94 points at this point. And in terms of the fastest lap of the race, that's gone to Mikey Doble as well, so that's an extra bonus point for him. And this will put him on 1,393. And Dennison is currently sat in 7th place. That will then put him on... that's further back, in fact, actually. So I've got my numbers completely wrong. It's 76 points for Chadwick, forgive me. 76 for Chadwick, 74 for Kendall, but again, doesn't change the numbers because it's one of their worst results of the season, both respectively. Dennison, meanwhile, I'm working this out on the fly here, so give me a second. It's 86 points for him. That will give him 1,330. So in terms of the top 4 or 5 places, you're looking at Chadwick from Kendall, from Doble, and then from Dennison by the looks of it. But we'll keep an eye on that, see how the rest of that plays out. So up the hill, past half distance in this final race of the season. Still Blackwell-Chambers from Griffiths, because Blackwell-Chambers will get the 100 points for the win if he can, and Jet was a bit wayward there through the chicane. Gives Doble the free pass to 3rd place. That now puts him on to 97 points for this race, because of course he gets the fastest lap of the race, plus the 96 for 3rd if he stays there. Again, doesn't change the position, just an update on points. Now we've got 2x2 here. You've got the 2 Team Northbrook cars, line astern, and you've got behind them the 2 Bromley racing cars dicing amongst each other, and that was Dennison up the inside of Smith. That now puts him into 6th place. That puts him onto 90 points now for that one. So it gives him an extra 4 points as a result of that, at the expense of his teammate. As the field makes its way down towards Andretti hairpin, still 6.5 minutes to go. So out of turn 3, up towards 4, and towards 5 again. And meanwhile at the front, Will Blackwell-Chambers has got this one relatively under control. He's still got some pressure from behind to resist in the form of Tom Griffiths. He's still being kept relatively honest. Trying to take care not to hit too many snags at this point. But Will Blackwell Chambers, as the kind of late afternoon sun essentially starts to shine on Laguna Seca and the shadows start to lengthen, it's just about keeping it clean, keeping it tidy and picking up a strong result to end the season. Blackwell Chambers has got the run through Rayleigh Corner, coming up to 2/3 distance. And now as they come up towards the left-hander at the end of the short straight towards turn 11. And then onto the pit straight to start another lap. Coming up to about a second gap now between himself and Griffiths. The fight for third place is just starting to concertina back up again now between Doble, Barker, Jet, Dennison and Smith. Herbert and Etheridge aren't too far away, neither is Richard Harwood. So there's a group of cars which are covered by about 6 seconds. But it only takes one of them to have some kind of a mishap, but it possibly just throws all that up into the air. So Dennison, this is the view from him, the leading of the two Bromley racing cars in 6th position. Back into the right-hander, thump the inside curb. That sort of red curb on the inside acts as a bit of a sausage curb, but also it's technically something of an apex marker which people have to try and hit, but got such a high kind of like concrete or stone or curb on the inside, but it kind of acts as a bit of a launching pad for some cars if they're not too careful, but that's the bit that you aim for. Nice, neat and tidy for the car scrapping from third downwards. Gap between the top two is about 3/4 of a second. There's a further 4 seconds back between second and third, so Griffiths and Doble will change between them. And Pete Smith is dropping backwards, so he's had a mishap exiting turn 6 by the look of it. He's down to at least 10th, if not 11th now, because Juan Hemes has gone through, and Pete Smith, in fact, has quickly jumped back to the pits. This benefits 2 more drivers in the shape of both Chadwick and Kendall. And let's see. So this is what happened to him exiting turn 6. He's had a few hearing and arrears, a few off-tracks warnings, and just too wide on the exit and just dropped the outside wheel as he went over on the grass. It just lost him traction and then just spat it into the barrier. We'll look at the onboard shot here from Pete. So this is the view he saw up towards turn 6 and just didn't miss the apex, but just let the car understeer wide. Again, just the wheels onto that dirt. It's going to lose him traction straight into the tyres. Unfortunately, that is him. Essentially, his eSports Series season, effectively, for all intents and purposes, over. His teammate there, Dennison, is continuing on, still upholding honours in 6th position. But this benefits, of course, 2 more drivers in the shape of both William Chadwick and Matt Kendall in terms of points. This now gives... this now gives 78 points to Chadwick and 76 points to Kendall, but again doesn't change the outcome in terms of drop scores, so everything stays as it was, but just a few more points gained for the record for their overall totals. Now Jeff has got a wheel-to-wheel battle here with Dennison. Dennison's got the inside line, last of the late breakers, gets the apex right at the opportune time through the top of the corkscrew and into 5th position he goes. And 5th position for him. And now they come into the right-hander. And that's Pete Smith rejoining. And he does so just in front of a recovering Matt Kendall, it seems. So Pete Smith actually comes back out after his fast repair and actually demotes Kendall back to 14th. So Kendall actually is only going to score at this point 74 points rather than 76 rather. But he's quite far back. And this at least, still, whatever happens, cements 2nd place provisionally at least for Matt Kendall. He's been one of the stars of the season, has Matt. Has had some really good results throughout the year. And lots of podiums. He has taken a couple of wins. His best win of the season, he's taken 2 wins, in fact, throughout the year. His best win has to be that last gasp sprint. I saw Apex Racing TV put it out on their social media channels, that fantastic last lap, last corner sprint to a line between 4 of them for victory at Donington Park. That was one heck of a victory for Matt Kendall, who just fended off any squeezing and advances from William Chadwick to defend the place on the run to the checkered flag. It was a great run throughout everything else. It's been incredible to watch. Now, Will Blackwell Chambers, of course, has looked strong at points, but He's had quite a bit of an up and down season. Had points where he's had bad luck, points where he's dropped to the bottom of the top 10, points where he's been up there towards the podium places. At some circuits he's been stronger, some others he's had some work to do. But he's certainly worked pretty well. Tom Monhemius, just getting a race. He's had a bit of a rather large off-track as Tom Monhemius. We might get a replay of that if there's anything to look for. And so we can look back and see what the reason will be. This is what happened here. This is back at Tom. This is back at turn 5. So makes the approach, brakes and turns in. Takes the apex neatly. Car just understeers wide on the exit. Just a bit of an off-track for him. And this is now down towards turn 6, and nothing doing there, it seems. And there is Tom carrying on. Leader's taken the white flag, so the final lap of the season is underway. And it's a 1 second gap between Will Blackwell-Chambers and Tom Griffiths. Mikey Doble looks like he's just about set in 3rd place. For 4th, it could be anyone's guess, because Dennison, Barker and Jepp are going to take this one right down to the flag. Will Blackwell-Chambers has got this race at the moment. That's the key thing, at the moment, under control. Griffiths in 2nd place. And they'll be happy to end the season on a high in terms of some good points. And, of course, for Blackwell-Chambers, if he stays where he is, it'd be good for him to end the season with a victory. He'll state by his own admission it wasn't his best season of eSports racing. I think he won't mind me saying so. He's had 1 podium so far to date this season, and that was back at the 3rd and final race of the meeting at Donington Park. In that sense, but up the hill for the final time towards the corkscrew, and this is the view of Harry Barker, who's looking at Dennison now. He's got Jet behind him as a rear gunner, and Harry Barker was a little tighter towards the first part of the corkscrew, runs a little deeper through the second part. He possibly make a last gasp move. He's got Richard Jepp as a backup here if he needs it. But Jepp is just holding back to see if anything happens, but we'll wait and see. But come to the last few corners for the final time. And it's what it's been for the BRSCC eSports series. But victory is going to go the way of this man. He's had some very up and down luck, but he can end it with a silver lining on that cloud. Will Blackwell-Chambers heads to the checkered flag, takes victory in the final race of the season for the 2023-24 BRSCC Winter Esports Series. It is 2nd place for Tom Griffiths, 3rd for Mikey Doble. That should provisionally give him 3rd place in the points. So the winner from last year manages to grab 3rd. Now we need to look back to 12th at one point, because our new Esports Series winner provisionally is going to come through very shortly. And here he is. He's had some tough races in this one, but across the line goes William Chadwick. It's only 12th place, but it will be more than enough to seal for him provisionally the Season 2 title in the 2023 BRSCC Winter Esports Series. Winner provisionally is William Chadwick, and you can see from the weaving and the donuts and the 360 spins, he is utterly delighted with that, and so he should be. He has driven excellently right from the outset, has been a formidable front runner, and with the victories that he's scored and the podiums he's got, and a couple of the up and down moments that he's had too, of course. He's had points where he hasn't been perfect either, but an excellent run for him nonetheless for William Chadwick, and he is provisionally the 2023-24 BRSCC Winter Esports Series winner, and certainly should be very, very proud at that. And he's been quite a way to do it. Of course, I'm sure he would have agreed that the incident on the first couple of laps is not exactly the way he would have wanted to do it, but effectively, of course, while these are only virtual race cars, this is a real one. He gets the chance to burn some rubber and to essentially enjoy himself and just celebrate the fact that he is the winner. Stuff from there. And a shout out also has to go to Matt Kendall, of course. He wrapped up the race in 14th place in the end, behind Pete Smith. And Chadwick actually got the fastest lap of the race too, to boot, in that KRF. That gives him an extra bonus point for his trouble. It doesn't change anything in terms of his drop scores. So on our provisional calculations, we have it. William Chadwick on 1,448 points is the man at the top of the table at the end of the series. Second place we have Matt Kendall, who is on 1,411. And then Mikey Doble we have as being in 3rd on 1,395. So that's the top 3 from what's been a quite incredible few rounds of the eSports series. And I have to say, there's been some incredible racing all the way through, particularly when you look at some of the racing we had, especially through the middle of the season at Donington Park, Knock Hill, and then Alton Park, when they were all over each other through those races. Some great wheel-to-wheel action. And I hope that those who are now going on to race in real BRSCC eSports series, if they've made friendships, if they've made partnerships and camaraderie here for those drivers that have enjoyed themselves, I hope that these do carry over into the real world and they do get to support each other on track in the various different championships and series that they're participating in. But as he comes up towards the line. It's a virtual car, he's got no checkered flag or UK flag to try and raise, but across the line and to celebrate a victory, because provisionally, once again, William Chadwick, with 1,448 points on our calculations, is winner for Season 2, the 2023-24 BRSCC Winter eSports Series. The donuts say it all. Lining up the tyres, and certainly that's one he can be proud of, and I'm certain that will also give him plenty of confidence going into his real-world antics, where I believe he is going into real-world MX-5 racing once again this year. He's done a handful of rounds in the MX-5 Championship and in the Mark 1 MX-5 in the real world. I'm sure this will give him plenty of confidence to go into the real-world series and use all of that he's learned to full effect. He's even doing the NASCAR-style burnout against the wall here, I think it seems like. He's going to full effect with these burnouts at least. He's trying, but he's been running a little bit backwards, so making the most of the moment. And I think he realises if he does go backwards, it might possibly affect his iRacing, but we'll be careful on that. And that's quite a nice gesture. First and second on points, coming together. And that's a bit of a nudge, I think, for Chadwick to say, well played. There's a bit of play here between the two of them. It's the end of the season. They can enjoy it. This is all friendly. It's all friendly. It's all banter. In fact, that pro wasn't to blame with the Kendall's front bumper moving off. But nonetheless, I'm sure we'll talk to him and we'll talk to Will and some others in the mix who we can have a chat to as well, I'm sure. But the results on our screen are as follows. Will Blackwell-Chambers wins the final race of the season from Tom Griffiths in second place. And they were about 3 seconds clear from the fight for third, which was won by Mikey Noble in third place. He's the outgoing series winner, but he still at least looks as though he's set to pick up third in the points in the end. It's fourth for James Dennison, fifth for Ari Barker, sixth for Luke Herbert. Good effort for him to pick up through the order. From Chris Etheridge, Richard Harwood, Richard Jepp and Tom Monhemius. Then it is William Chadwick, Tom Selden for William Chadwick, who becomes 12th place, and with that provisionally clinches the Season 2 title. Then Pete Smith and Matt Kendall, and then we have Joe Doble, Mike Close and Ewan Charman to round out the order. I think we've actually got all of our top 3, in fact. So what we might do is bring them in reverse order. We'll finish with Will Blackwell-Chambers, of course, has been a big part of the admin side of things, so we'll bring him in last. But I think we should start in reverse order for what we have in terms of our points calculations. And let's start with third place, the man who has to give up his eSports title, but I'm sure that's not too much of a loss when he's got a British Touring Car Championship to prepare for. And that's Mikey Noble, so let's bring him in and just see how he found the season. Of course, what was been pretty eventful with lots of up and downs, but Mikey's finished the season. Congratulations. We have it on calculations that you finished in third place, so congrats to you. You did have to give up your eSports title, but you gave it a really good effort, and third place is still a good reward. Some up and down efforts tonight, particularly that end of the first race. We had that 3-wide moment into the final corner. But just talk about tonight, talk about the season and how much you've enjoyed it. As I hope you have. It's been quite a season, and one where you've had quite a bit more competition than last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's always good fun racing in this championship, which is why I came back, because the racing's always really close. It's good to race against people you know as well. This year just wasn't quite my year. I mean, last year I had everything pretty smooth sailing, generally on the podium in most races with lots of race wins, and this year it's been a lot tougher. But like you say, the competition's got tougher this season. There's a lot more fast drivers out there, and just wasn't meant to be, but still a lot of fun.
Yeah, plenty of battles up and down, even regardless of numbers tonight as well. Lots of battles to have had up and down the field. Of course, now you've got some real-world racing to focus back on again. Of course, you've got a season in British Touring Cars to prepare for with PowerMax Racing. But things like sim racing, because you do quite a lot of sim racing in the off-season anyway, regardless of it's this or Tin Tops. I think you've also won a Tin Top sim racing title over the winter on top of that as well. As someone who races at a level like British Touring Cars, for those who might be wondering, how much of a benefit and how much of a practice platform does sim racing give you to keep sharp over the winter, so that when you do get back into the car for testing or for your first race weekend back for the season, you feel as sharp as you can be? Obviously, these are as real as they can be up to a point, but how much do you feel that running in sim racing keeps you race fit and sharp over the winter, so that you're as prepared as you can be when you get back into the car for real?
Yeah, definitely keeps you sharp, and I think race fit as well, because you're in a race scenario and you're kind of having to think the races through the same as you do in the real world. Now, obviously, driving one of these Mazdas on iRacing is not comparable at all to the car I race in real life. However, the racing is, so when you're racing week in, week out on iRacing against other class drivers that are really difficult to beat, it just means that when you come to do the first meeting after quite a long off season, around 6 months, you don't feel like you've not been racing for 6 months. You feel like you've had your competitive juices flowing, all the way through the winter. And I don't know where I'd be without my sim in the winter. I mean, I can't remember life without it, to be honest. But no, I always love the competitive side of sim racing. I don't just do it for a bit of fun. I do generally want to win. But hopefully that will help me out as we go towards the real world season in a month or so time.
And I'm sure that it's going to be, all the sim work that you've done will be quite beneficial in terms of, again, keeping you as ready as it can be, as it seems though it has. Just a closing thought, I mean, again, a second season that's had, I think, a lot more competition, as we talked about, compared to season 1. So obviously you had to have a lot more battling up and down the order. But in terms of the quality of racing that we've had, for the most part, particularly some of the battles that we had at Donington Park, Knockhill, Alton Park, even here a couple of points in Laguna Seca, from your point of view, just to ask a question, how impressed are you at the standard that we've had in season 2 compared to the first one? Of course, that's no slight on season 1, of course, because you had to fight hard for that, I think, against John Higgins Jr. and Will Redford, etc. But if it's felt this year as though, at least I don't know what it was like from your driver's perspective, just the level of racing, the level of skill and the talent actually came up a notch in the second season compared to season 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think that drivers like Will, I've raced him before, Will Chadwick, and in other series, and I know that he's extremely quick and he's got an extremely high I rating, which means that from the official racing he's always there or thereabouts in the top splits. But there's also more drivers that are capable of winning races this year. I think last year it was kind of a 3 or 4 horse race in most races, but you've had people like Matt Kendall, Will Blackwell Chambers and James Dennison that have improved or come into the season and now one of the front runners that are competing for wins. And now if you're slightly off your game in qualifying, as I've been on numerous rounds this year, you're starting on the 3rd or 4th row on the grid, as opposed to perhaps row 2. So yeah, I mean, qualifying's been crucial this season to set up your night, and I think ultimately if I was to look back, that's probably where I haven't quite nailed it this season. Started off well with a pole actually at Silverstone, but it's kind of gone downhill from there. So, but no, I'm impressed with the quality of racing at the front, how quick everyone is. I think there is a little bit of experience, a bit of a disparity throughout the field with people that aren't quite used to sim racing. I think that it would be a little bit better for the broadcast and better for the regular sim racers if people maybe just got a little bit better with circuit space around them, spatial awareness and stuff like that. But that just comes with time on the sim, and perhaps they're not on the best of rigs as well. You have to factor that in. But no, it's quality racing all up and down the field, and hope to be back next year to try and win my title back.
Yeah, well, you've got a touring car season to get through first of all, so I'm sure that'll be your main priority. But I think I speak for everyone to say, first of all, it's been great to have you back, of course, to be back in the series, of course. And I think for anyone that supported you through the BMW Compact Cup days and still does so going forwards, I'm sure that they'll all agree with Johnny in saying, for your second season of British Touring Cars, very best of luck for it. And there's a lot of people that you've raced through in the Compact Cup paddock that are going to be behind you in terms of for success. And all being well, whatever the plans for season 3 are, of course, if you are going to be back, hopefully we'll see you there. But for now, again, thanks for taking part. Congrats on what we believe provisionally is 3rd place in the standings. And again, have a fantastic 2024 season, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon. But again, Mikey, thanks for taking part and best of luck for this year.
No, my pleasure. Thanks a lot, guys.
Great stuff. So Mikey Doe within 3rd place provisionally, we have him in points. Excellent work from him. Let's now bring in the... We're going to bring in beforehand, because we also had a couple of podiums tonight. Let's bring him in before we get to 2nd place. Let's bring in James Dennison, because he's had quite a journey up through the season. Had to get up to speed. Of course, been sharing a car in real life with Pete Smith, but he's been doing it as a teammate throughout the season. And a couple of podiums tonight, which certainly have served him well. James, a decent night for you. I think we can start with essentially that skirmish at the final corner in race number 1, because you had both William and Mikey all over you, and it was just a case of just trying to keep your nose clean and trying to keep up what could have been a bit of trouble if you'd all come together at the same point. It was quite an eventful night overall, but it was started in quite an energetic way for you, at least at the final corner.
Yeah, it did. And to be fair to William, the only reason I was keeping up with him at that point was he got a couple of penalties through the corkscrew. But yeah, coming into that last lap, I was ahead, and it was the corner after the corkscrew. Not sure what it's called, but it's a left-hander, and I knew at that point that he'd got me because I went a little bit wider in, and he stuck his nose there, and I couldn't turn across. So I knew that he was going to have the inside for the last corner at that point. So it was just a case of try and hang it around the outside and carry the speed. But yeah, he was a bit too clever for that. Obviously, Mikey, wouldn't miss an opportunity, and they both got under me. It was a good race. I can't complain too much.
Yeah, and the rest of the night you were up and in the mix as well, of course, and battling with some of your teammate and the two Northamptonshire racing cars in the mix. In particular, a bit of a jumble up for the third race when we had that reverse grid. But I mean, when we take tonight into consideration, and also in fact the amount of progress that you've made from the start of the season to where you are now, and you're fighting up there at the front. I mean, how proud are you of the progress that you've made? Because you've been one of the drivers throughout this season that have made a phenomenal amount of progress over the rounds. And I think where you started out at Silverstone is light years away to where you now are at the front of the field in terms of the pace that you've got. How proud and how pleased are you of the progress that you've made from where we started at Silverstone to where we ended up here at Laguna Seca?
Yeah, really pleased. To be honest, I thought I was decent at the MX5s beforehand, but yeah, started the first race at Silverstone, and it was quite a big shock. There was a few things that I think kind of explained why I wasn't great. I think I didn't pull myself together enough was one of them. But throughout the season, it's just got better and better. And yeah, I've learned a few tricks from some of the eSports drivers, and always had Pete asking me why I'm not doing better. He's my teammate, and it's been a really enjoyable year. And I think I've got to say thanks to Will Blackwell Chambers and Matt Kendall and Jack for running the series, and also the BRSCC and to the sponsors on our car actually as well. I know it's sim racing, but they're still important for us. So Alba Studios and Quadra Pumps and Josh Bromley Racing for running it like he did for part of last year. So yeah, it's been a good progress. Pleased with how it ended. Wish I could have done that in the first half, but yeah, I've had a great time. It's been a nice break in the winter to enjoy myself on a Thursday.
Excellent. Well, it's been great to have you take part. And of course, now you'll be looking forward to real world plans for this season as well. Just to give us a different reminder of what the plans are for you this season, and potentially how much do you think racing in this series is giving you a bit of extra prep to what you'll be going into for this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it has. It's been really tight, close racing, and it's been great practice for that, because the racecraft is one of the best things that you can learn from sim racing, I think. So that's been brilliant. As for this year, it's currently TBC. I'm sure a lot of people are in that same position, but I'll be supporting my teammate in this series, the other purple car, Pete Smith, as he does the Clubman series in the MX5 in the BRSCC with this particular livery on the car. So yeah, I'll be around, but not quite sure what I'm going to be racing yet.
Great stuff. Well, hopefully we see you on track very soon. Again, thanks again for taking part in that sense and being a part of the grid. And great to see you make the progress that you have from the start of the year. And of course, whatever plans there are for season 3, hopefully we'll see you back. And at some point, once you do confirm your plans, we look forward to seeing whatever they are and whatever you're at in track. But for now, at least, great racing tonight, great racing throughout the season, great progress. Again, thanks for taking part, and we will see you, I'm sure, either on the real track or on the sim at some point very soon. But again, thank you, James, and hopefully we'll see you very soon again.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Excellent. It's a great job from James then. A couple of decent results tonight to round off what's been a very decent, a good, strong build of his skills throughout the season. Let's now bring in the man who finishes up on our calculations runner-up in the points, and he was up there in the mix right towards the end. Wasn't the way he might have wanted to end the season with the incident that he had on the opening lap of race number 3, but still second place in points, provision at least from what our calculations show, is a very good ending for him, which is Matt Kendall. So let's bring Matt in and have a chat with him just to give his summary of not just tonight but of course the season. Matt, just let's get the obvious out of the way. It wasn't the greatest end to the season in terms of the incident that you had, but glossing over that, essentially from our calculations, provisionally subject to all the final calculations and other incidents that have got to be looked at, that tonight's results are giving you second in the points runner-up spot. So just talk me through how that's felt and also the progress that you've made throughout the year, because I think you were one of the strongest ones by the end of last year, and you seem to have this season taken it up a notch and really gone a bit further in terms of pace. Just talk us through how the season as a whole has been for you.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm even though that didn't go exactly to plan, I'm still very happy with my performance in the season. I knew in qualifying once Will put up a 35 that I was probably not going to end up winning the title. The incident at the end, that was torturous, I must admit. Seeing Will spin and then seeing the gap open and then seeing it close just as quickly. Because of course my car chooses that exact moment to have a bit of fun with me on the exit of the corner, which is totally not the squishy bit in the middle's fault. No, definitely not. Yeah, it's just been a really good year. I'm just really chuffed to be in that, even in the conversation for that title against Will and Heads and all the others who are really, really fast. So just being the guy who was most likely to overcome him, even if it was very unlikely, is a big achievement, and I'm very proud of that.
No, so you should be, because you've definitely made some great progress compared to where you were at the end of last season, which was strong. And of course, you've been up there and getting quicker and quicker as the season has gone on. And again, it's a couple of things I've remarked with a couple of the other guys I've spoken to just now is that what are your thoughts on the fact that we've had so much of an increase in the competition levels? Again, last year was the first time we did it, so there was people feeling their way through the season and trying to get themselves adapted to racing in an eSports environment and that sort of thing they might not have done so much before. This year now there's been more drivers that have come in that either do it more regularly outside of this or anything else, but one thing I think we've noticed is that the field spread has closed up a lot. There's been a lot more front-running cars in that league group, including yourself and others. So how impressed have you been personally with just how competitive this year's been compared to last year and how much that league group has grown, even race by race, in terms of how people have gotten quicker throughout the year?
I mean, it's astonishing. It's really great for the series and the club. Last year we had 3 or 4 cars per race that probably had a chance at the front, and now, as you say, it's 6, 7, 8, 9 at some tracks. At Alton we were talking trains that stretch back into the top 10. It's just really great to see. We've got so many quick guys on the grid now, and it's just such a high level of competition for what was originally envisaged for it. I personally was taken off guard with how much effort everyone was putting in. It's so great to see, but it's you could be forgiven for thinking this had money behind it with how serious, as in as a prize fund, because people are putting so much time and energy and passion into preparing for the race. It's amazing.
Yeah. Speaking of preparation for racing, of course, with the now eSports season done, real world racing season now coming up upon us. In terms of plans, obviously you've been in the BMW Compact Cup in previous years. Is that the plan again this year? Have you got some other plans to go forwards this year? What's on the cards for 2024 in terms of real world racing, whether it's BMWs or possibly something else?
My BMW, I think, might still be in bits. Have to check that, but it should be all right for the season. I did rather bend it somewhat at the end of last season. Again, squishy bit issue. But it should be ready for the season, and there's some sim racing stuff that I'm going to try and do as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a busy year.
Excellent. Well, sim or real world, best of luck for it both. Again, you've driven brilliantly throughout the season, and seeing you build on what you did in season one's been impressive to see, and to end it with a runner-up spot, I think certainly Josh rewards for the performance that you put on, particularly the couple of wins that you got, of course. I think I'll never forget that 4-wide sprint to like Donington Park where you just edged William Chadwick out. It's one of the races where you managed to properly get the better of him. But for the record, again, thank you very much again for taking part, and for well done for the. We have to say provisional because we've got the final points and penalty stuff to work out post race. But at least in terms of our calculations, it's runner-up spot, and not just for taking part and for getting second, but also again, I'll say it to Will also as well. Thank you to you for as being part of the team that's been looking after this in the background. On top of that, to play your part in that one, it's been genuinely appreciated, and it's helped run this season as smoothly as possible. So again, on all those fronts, thank you very much indeed, Matt, and all the best both in sim and real world for 2024 going forwards. Best of luck.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Great stuff. Right, I think we've kept him waiting long enough before we wrap with Chambers. Let's bring him in. Let's bring the provisional. Again, we have to say provisional because there's post-race penalty stuff and also points to work out as well. But let's bring him and have a chat then. So, 2023-24, Season 2, BRSCC Winter Esports Series champion, at least initially, is the man himself, of course, which is Will Chadwick. Well, I guess the first obvious question is just describe how it feels, really. Of course, you've had a very, 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 very strong season. all the way through, and you jumped in, I think, almost at the last minute for Silverstone, but that jumping at the last minute led to something quite special in the fact that you've become Season 2 winner.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was quite last minute. I knew I wanted to do this series ever since I competed for my first season in cars last year in 2023. Not a full season, but we did a few rounds, as many as we could, and I just knew that I wanted to do the series. And I was like, I swear it should be happening sometimes right now. I sent an email to the BRSCC. You're like, yeah, it's tonight. I was like, oh, okay. So we jumped in for Silverstone. we had a really good time of it, and sim racing is something that's I've almost gone from sim racing to real life racing, more than the other way around, which is what a lot of people in the series do. But yeah, I really enjoy what I do on the sim racing, and I find that a Mazda League like this is just a lot of fun, and I thought it was quite good considering it translated a little bit from like the real life drivers as well to the in sim. So yeah, I've really enjoyed myself.
Excellent. And we've talked a couple of times now about the fact that you're going into, I'm sure, some kind of real world racing this year alongside any sim stuff that you're doing. And we've spoke to Mike, and we spoke to Matt Kendall and to Mikey Doble in terms of the pre-season prep this has allowed you to kind of get in terms of racecraft and just keeping yourself sharp. I mean, how much do you think, if at all, do you think that running this season and also sim racing stuff that you do, how much do you think it's a benefit to keep you sharp and ready to go once the racing season starts real for you on the grid?
Yeah, so we were just kind of talking about that with Mikey just then in the interview waiting room. And we were saying that, sim racing teaches you to be a lot more precise and think a little bit more about time in general, rather than when you're in the car. It's sometimes, there's a lot of senses, there's a lot of G-forces, a lot more going on, there's sound, everything, right? Whereas in the sim, it's a lot quieter. You see the time a lot easier. Your vision's more stable, and it makes you think a lot more about time. And like you say, racecraft as well is really important, especially in a series such as this. So I think it really helps you build up your racecraft, but mainly I think it makes you think about time itself and where to gain time on a track in a different way. And I'll certainly take that into my my second attempt at a full MX5 Mark 1 season in the championship class for next year.
Excellent. And I think it'd be quite fun to see how you get on, given that you'd be running off that momentum, of course, on that side. And in terms of going forwards, and just to kind of sum up the season, I mean, of course, you've been one of the leading lights in the series this year in terms of MX5s, and again, you've had some quite stiff competition all the way through. So I mean, how relieving is it that you've managed to get to the end of the season now? You've essentially come out on top again. We have to say, provisionally, for working out final results and post-race investigation penalties and stuff like that, but essentially coming out on top on points. I mean, that's got to be a great feeling, given all the effort that you put in, particularly and to get to this point where you've come out on top as the winner. Essentially, you've managed to dethrone Mikey Doble, and he's already promised that sort of whatever happens for season 3 is that he wants to come back and try and take it from you. So you might have a bit of a showdown to see who can do best of 3.
I've raced against Mikey now for a good number of years on the sim. He's been one of the more active real drivers on the simulator. I think whenever you look at drivers that have got a lot of skill from the real world, it always translates to the simulator, whether it takes them a bit of time or not. And Mikey's one of those. He's one of the best sim racers that is predominantly from the real world. And I think it'll be a good battle with him in the next season. And I always enjoy racing Mike. He races in a very exciting way. And always great competition from everyone, really. And yeah, no, I'm relieved to get the championship. It's good. It's a good way to start my season in terms of a real life perspective. But I'm happy to be champion and just happy that I can share this moment with my sponsors.
Great stuff. Well, listen, you've been a fantastic driver all the way through. I think the fact you've won races and podiums and everything else on top of that has been excellent stuff, and you've been quite a great participant. So I'm sure on behalf of everyone who looks after us at BRSCC and that's been involved, again, thank you for taking part, and more importantly, congratulations on the success. It's been great to watch you throughout the season. You've been a great participant up at the front, and I'm certain that all the prep that you've got now from the eSports series will carry forward, I hope, onto the real world grid, and hopefully we'll see you up there towards the front. But again, 2023-24 BRSCC wins at eSports series winner William Chadwick. Again, many congratulations and all the best for whatever happens in 2024.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you for your commentary, and thank you to the Apex Racing TV for the production as well. Really appreciated, and of course from my side, thank you to Green Junior Racing, Green Junior Rebuilds, Frentech Braking, and RC Sim Photography and PDM Media. Thank you.
Great man. Well done, William Chadwick. eSports Series winner for 23-24. Last man to talk to, he managed to get the victory in the last race of the season, and of course he's been one of the main men behind looking after this series alongside Matt Kendall and myself in the back on top of that. Let's bring Will Blackwell Chambers in. We've kept him until last, but they say save the best until last, and we'll keep pretty much just have a quick chat about just, well, his victory and also how it's been throughout the season. So let's bring Will Blackwell Chambers in. I'm losing my voice already. Let's bring Will in and just to have a quick summary of the end of the season. So let's bring him in. Mr. Blackwell Chambers, we kept you to last because they say keep the best until last. I'm not sure who said that, but we'll crack it anyway. Which is, a kid, of course. So, first of all, race victory, which, of course, is a nice silver line to what's been a very up and down eSports series for you. I think that's to say the least. But a good way to end it, and a good way to end what's been, I think, on the whole, a superb second season, given the quality of the racing that we've had in terms of the talent, the wheel-to-wheel stuff, and all in all, just the participation across the board from the take-up and from people involved in it. So just give us a summary of not just tonight, but the whole season.
Well, it's taken me 2 years and all the leaders having an accident for me to finally be able to win one, but I'll certainly take it. But no, it's been fun to run this series.
Win's a win.
Yeah, a win's a win. I'll take it. And it's amazing. You actually start getting some of the same feelings that you do when you're actually racing for real, which is very strange when you're sat in your simulator in your office. But no, it's been a really, really good series. It's been really good to see it grow over these last 2 years. It's good to see a really strong user base within the community. You know, you've got a lot of real life racers in there. Everyone's still enjoying it, and it's great to sort of round out another season. Obviously, it'll be up to the BRSCC if we get renewed for another season, but I don't see why not. But yeah, it's been brilliant. Massive thanks to yourself, Scott, for all the commentary and sort of making it happen for the TV side of thing, and of course for Apex Racing TV for getting this all out there, as well as the Hydra Race series sponsors for providing the trophies and bits and pieces for the league.
Great stuff, yeah, and of course you've been an integral part of the background along with Matt to putting this all together. So I'm certain that whatever the plans are going forward to season 3, as and when it comes to sorting those out, I'm sure we'll work on those in due course. But in terms of season 2, or just talking to some of the other drivers and kind of repeating a bit kind of what they said as well, is that we talked about the increased level of competition, and just compared to season 1, there was some good competition at the front there, but season 2 I think just took it up to a completely different level. And some of the racing, particularly in the middle part of the season when we had those close battles at Donington Park and Knockhill and Alton Park, this has been a season 2 where there was a benchmark and we haven't just surpassed it, we've smashed through it, and there's now some very good drivers. Of course, Mikey came back for a second season. Guys like Will Chadwick and Ted Bradbury involved, and others in the mix who've been pretty quick, of course, yourself and Matt Kendall and everyone else who's been in there in the mix. This has been a season where it's taken the base of the groundwork from Series 1 and just taken it up, dialed it up several levels, and really shown that when everyone's on it, it's a really competitive series to be a part of.
Yeah, I think, it's been, as you say, it's been noticed. People sort of saw what we did in season 1, we saw the success of it. The fact we've had quite a few esports drivers coming in, we've got a touring car driver in the series, it's attracting some maybe bigger names than we were expecting, and it's made for some fantastic racing. So yeah, it's been just fantastic to sort of see it evolve.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, now going forwards for real world for 2024 in the real world, I anticipate you'll be back in the MX5 Super Cup this year, in terms of, or if not, whatever the plans are. But what's the plan going forward now for 2024? What are you looking forward to this season?
Well, we're back in the Clapham North Super Cup car, so really looking forward to getting back on track with that. We've had not a huge amount of winter testing, but we're out this weekend, so we'll see what that brings. And yeah, really looking forward to the first round at Silverstone and sort of getting back on circuit and seeing what we're, see where the car is, see where we are. Hopefully we're on the pace and kind of build from there.
You got a title to get back. You won it in 2022, so I'm sure you'll be up for the fight. But nonetheless, I'm sure you'll be up there regardless of how testing goes on Saturday. Just whilst we're on broadcast again, I've said it to Matt as well, but of course I'll say it publicly here. For all of your work behind the scenes to put this together, in many cases, the admin stuff that you've done and everything's done on the iRacing side, genuinely, alongside with Matt, but in this case yourself, genuinely a massive thank you and appreciation and gratitude for everything you've done, not just for this one, but for season 1 on top of it as well. And I know there's been 1 or 2 headaches along the way, but is what it is, and these things happen. But ultimately, I think you've done a great job in looking after it in the background and getting everyone where they need to be for races and stuff. Obviously, you've been a great participant on top of that as well. So again, just a very, very big thank you for all the work you've done behind the scenes and for being a part of it, and for also doing a grand job, and of course for winning tonight. And yeah, all the best for 2024 in terms of Super Cup and going forwards. And I'm sure that in terms of plans for Season 3, they'll come to fruition at some point later on down the line the season when we have the chance to digest it, and then we'll see where we go from there. But in terms of that, again, thank you very much for all your efforts, and goes without saying, very, very best of luck for everything in Super Cup this year, Will. And again, just thanks for all your efforts.
Yeah, Scott, thanks for that. I'll see you at round 1.
You will do. Good stuff. Thank you, Will. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all she wrote. That's it. That is the 2023 BRSCC Winter Esports season done and dusted. It is complete. 6 meetings, and we have ourselves a winner in Will Chadwick. Of course, again, everything's provisional given the fact that we still have to work through the final calculations of points of everyone that took part, and also any post-race investigations that could result in penalties and things on top of that. But nonetheless, it has been an amazing second season. Again, the standard of racing has been absolutely up there. The quality of the drivers that we've had on top of it has been great too. To watch it develop into what we've had has been incredible. Thanks again has to go to both Will Blackwood Chambers and Matt Kendall. They've been 2 very integral parts of making sure that this eSports series runs as smoothly as possible in the background. So massive, massive thank you and credit has to go to them, and gratitude for all their efforts. Thank you to Hydra Race, who've been so good, kind enough to support and sponsor the series as well. And on top of that, also, again, thank you to Apex Racing TV. Thank you to Josh, who's been our production guy for the last few races. So thanks for him for coming on board and taking part on that. Thanks to Apex Racing TV, to Lee Thompson, and all the guys that have been involved in that side too, for allowing us to broadcast it and bring it to you guys here on the BRSCC YouTube channel and on the Apex Racing TV channel on top of that as well. Thanks to iRacing for the platform. Thanks also to all the BRSCC's clubs, sponsors and partners, including Run Your Fleet on top of that. Give me sure to go and check them out. And I thank you for watching, for all those who've been watching throughout, whether it's live or post-broadcast on top of that. Thanks for supporting it as well, and for supporting the BRSCC and the club. Of course, the real-world racing season does get underway March 16th and 17th at the home of British Motorsport, Silverstone International Circuit, where you'll see Mazda MX-5s as part of the opening weekend programme, amongst other top series and championships from BRSCC, one of the leading clubs in British Motorsport. But from myself, Scott Woodward, again, a big gratitude to everyone that's been involved in this one, and thank you so much for supporting it, taking part in it. Of course, to all the drivers and teams that have taken part as well, for all their efforts, for buying into the series for season 2 and for taking part in it and supporting it, enjoying it all the way around, and for just enjoying it from start to finish. Again, massive thank you to everyone that's made this happen, from drivers to admin and everything else on top of that. The season, of course, begins in a few weeks' time. Be sure to head to brscc.co.uk for all the information on championships and series and the calendar of events for this season. Of course, we've got British GT, the Genetra coming on board this year, TCR UK events, and a lot more going forwards. It's going to be another action-packed BRSCC season in the real world. But for the esports side of things, we wind down and take a break until the next time. But until then, for all of us here at BRSCC, again, thank you. Big thanks and gratitude for all the support and for the viewership and for taking part. And until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you for more esports racing down the line in hopefully a few months' time. Bye for now.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.